Okay, so Score. Amazing, cool stuff happening with Score. I mean, I've gotten to travel a ton this year and even some stuff that I wasn't expecting. Some medical trips. There's usually two medical trips that I get to take part in and play doctor and or dentist sometimes too, which is so exciting. Don't trust me with your children, however, but it's just very cool. Honestly, I mean, I just go and assist and help with any logistics that I possibly can, set up testimonies, that kind of thing. I let the medical professionals be the medical professionals. That's just a disclaimer. But so medical trips, I had an awesome time at Kingdom Bound, just talking about Score and really being able to build into some people that came by our table and just represent Score. And then later on in July, I had actually no. Kingdom Bound was in July. In August, there was two trips that happened in July. One was with Centerpoint Community Church here in Lancaster, New York, outside of Buffalo, which was an incredible trip. And at the same time, there was a group of college students that came down to the DR. Both of those trips from Centerpoint and with Vintage were down at the same time going to the DR. But with Vintage, we got to do a bunch of human trafficking work and working with a partnership up in the north of the Dominican Republic. And it was just a life-changing, incredible experience for all involved, heartbreaking, and just seeing some of the red light district in the Dominican Republic that's not too far away from where Score is, but also seeing ministry grow and seeing the government and people aware of trafficking. And it's sort of a normal subculture there. Prostitution is legal. And pimping people is not legal. You can't sell other people, but it's done. And so just seeing what Score is doing, Lily House, and Erica Jude and the girls of Lily House, and then seeing teams come down, including Vintage, to combat some of those things. And now the government has given power and law to the authorities to be able to arrest and prosecute for illegal trafficking, and it's a major issue. So that was an incredible trip, and it was a real learning experience for me. There was 29 or 30 young adults from the Chapel of Cross Point's Vintage Ministry that went with me there. And Centerpoint Community also went, and they were actually with Jeff Hackett, and Jeff has a really great relationship with that church, and they just had a fantastic time doing a bunch of work, food distribution, orphanages, and that kind of thing. I was able then in September to go to the Bahamas, and basically through a connection with Delta Airlines, we met a man who's a professional boxer in the Bahamas, and Jeff and I went probably a month ago for 4 days, something like that. And basically, we just saw, the island of Nassau, sort of like a donut, and you have all of the wealthy tourists and consumers on the outside of the island, and then inside you sort of have the real Bahamas. And it was just an incredible time. We spent a lot of time in sort of the ghetto areas, seeing the real disconnect between the local church and being the hands and feet of Jesus and being a giving mechanism instead of a collecting mechanism, which it seems to be a lot of prosperity gospel type stuff going on. And there's just a disconnect between the true gospel and what Jesus has done in sacrifice and giving from what the church is actually doing. And so there's a real hang up about church. in the Bahamas, and so we were just brainstorming and dreaming and talking with local people and some local leaders, and just thinking about what can we do, what can SCORE do here, to really get after just some, after school programs, working in the schools, some construction projects, and some sports stuff. The guy that we are connected with has a boxing club down there, and just with after school kids. And so there's just enormous need, especially after the latest hurricane, which demolished a lot of areas on that island. It was an incredible time of fellowship with local believers. It was a great time for Jeff and I to be able to dream about expanding ministry in the Bahamas, and possibly taking groups there in the future. It was, man, it was a major faith builder. It was really discouraging at first, as we couldn't really find a lot of local church partnership in our time. But there are churches that love Jesus and that want to serve the needs of people in the community. And we want to SCORE wants to act as a liaison between communities in the church, whether it's in Panama or the Costa Rica or the Dominican Republic. And there's just such great opportunity and such need there. It was a fantastic time. And I just got back last week from an incredible trip with Believers Chapel. That was their first trip, and just it was totally life-changing for them, and just where they might be able to invest long-term with SCORE. That's what I really want and SCORE wants is bodies of believers that are going to invest long-term into the ministry, and in one of the niches that SCORE has. And will continue to build relationships between pastors and missions boards and the local church in an area. And SCORE can help with the logistics and planning and how people are gifted and all of those different things. It is just an honor to go down with a group of people that had really specific skills, especially with kids and also with carpentry and construction, and God just worked it out so that we were able to do both of those things and just be a real blessing down there and really connect the local church and the ability for SCORE to be able to work in neighborhoods and be able to give. It was a really special time down there, both for me and for the church, and at Believers Chapel and the church in the Dominican Republic. And then I want to give mention that I was able to teach a spiritual formation class to the GAP students 2 weeks ago. So I went down 2 weeks ago, or 2.5 weeks ago, and I taught from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for 2 hours on spiritual formation. And then I had a group come down on Believers Chapel came down on Friday, and then I just got back a few days ago. So it was an incredible time down there with the students. I never taught in a classroom environment before, so that was totally new for me. And man, I hope it was a blessing to the students. Got great feedback from them, and I learned about my own spiritual formation and pursuing God, and how surrendering my life to Him while He pursues me and is proactive in my life, and what I can do as far as spiritual disciplines, and how I treat my stuff and my relationships with other people, and using my gifts and being able to tell my story and use that as a catalyzing agent so that the kingdom can move forward. It was just a real precious time. I was nervous, but I think it went pretty well. So I'm so grateful for what SCORE is doing. They're expanding domestically and internationally in the countries that they're working in. And Satan hates it. He hates the things that God is doing in the local church across the world, and he hates that we really want to connect people together. And I'm just really grateful to be a part of what God can use to mobilize people in the gospel. So, man, SCORE is doing great work. If you want to find out some more, you can go to scoreintl.org, and they have some documentation, or shoot me an email. I'd love to talk to you about any of this stuff. So, before I make the video too long, I will bid you adieu, and you can check out the what's next for some stuff that's coming up. All right.